that you have a lot of unhappy folks.
I think we were in before Thursday.
Wednesday.
Oh, no.
Well,
It was
yeah,
at least Wednesday.
I was there. But anyway, you know what? Wednesday, Thursday, I will tell you this. Your statement presupposes that we had the resources that were held back. We couldn't get to you. We literally couldn't get up the streets to get to Fairway to do it, or else we certainly would have been there. We have trucks that are designated just for Fairway. They go there as the other trucks go. We had to borrow equipment from Spring Lake, a tracked bulldozer, to open up the roads. In that storm, because of the foresight of your administration, rented loaders, you had better equipment for that storm than we did for the whole town.
God
We were in, no, well, that's true, but you know, the other side of it is, you can't have, beach communities use these large loaders for beach work. That's why they have them. They don't get it for snow. I've been here my whole life. I've never seen the snow come down that fast. So to say that we should have four $150,000 loaders sitting in the yard, of course we couldn't, and that's what we needed in that storm. In that storm. I just want to say that no one neglected, and forget plows. Plows were worthless. It's the first snow we've ever seen. Plows didn't work. It was a whiteout, and by the time they came out to resume plowing, there was 2.5 foot of snow, and it just didn't work. It's the first time we've ever experienced that, and we needed loaders to open it up the streets. We borrowed them from Spring Lake, and I'll tell you, it was on Wednesday when I went and borrowed. We started on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we borrowed Spring Lake, and Seeger gave us a loader for 4 hours. The next day, I went back, borrowed a loader. They gave it to me for a day, piece of equipment, and our operator went in conjunction with your dump trucks and our backhoe and went right through Fairway and finally opened it up. Was it scary? It absolutely was. And no one was more affected, I know, than the council people, because I was in constant contact with them. And they were either touring on the phone or calling me at all times. I just want you to make aware of it, and I apologize for your inconvenience, and it was a scary thing, and it's not diminished.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McLaughlin, can I just say one thing?
Yes, sir.
My understanding is that I am concerned about what happened in Fairway News. And the reason why is because my understanding is that the roads outside of Fairway News were passable by the end of the day Tuesday. And if we didn't have a plow in Fairway News until Wednesday, then shame on us. That's my attitude about it.
Mine too.
The plows outside Fairway are
Shame
county
on
roads.
That was county.
They're both county roads, Warren and Alair.
Warren
That's
and
the only
Alair.
passable roads.
My understanding, because I was keeping in contact, my understanding was that Tuesday, by the end of the day, all residential roads in Spring Lake Heights were passable. If Fairway News was
Somebody
not
gave you
touched.
bad information.
No, I know
Well,
that.
my street wasn't. I don't know. That's not true, Jim.
Spear bad shape everywhere.
That wasn't true.
Yeah.
Would anyone else like to speak from the public? Yeah.
That's not turned on, I don't
No, you're right, it's not. I have to talk loud. Kathleen Crippen, 564 Atlantic Avenue. With all the focus back on recreation, I just wanted to share some information for some folks in the audience as background information, and also to offer some caution for some folks who don't have a background in this. I know that Rick Diver understands this. I know Butch reviewed this. In July of 2008, the borough auditor called a special meeting. And at that time, Tom O'Brien and I were the finance committee. And we were called into this, and it was explained to us that there were terrible discrepancies with the recreation fund. And Mr. Mortone, God bless you, I found meeting minutes from 1998 where you got up and asked the very questions that the auditor finally resolved, and so, bless you, you were right. There were issues. Now, I want to make it abundantly clear that the auditor was not making any charges of fraud or misconduct. That would have required an investigation with forensic accounting to figure out what had happened. As far as he was concerned, there were issues, and they needed to be cleaned up, and they were serious issues. There were issues where people were working for us They did not know if they were employees or contractors because they had never been required to fill out either a W-2 or a 1099, but they got paid, and in fact, some of them were paid in cash. There were people who were entering into contracts who were not authorized by the borough to sign contracts. There were people who were setting fees without the benefit of a fee ordinance to set the fees. There were people who were making up programming. Now, Mr. Forback made the comment that with a commission we hold the purse strings. Well, that's not true, unfortunately. And if you go back and read the statute, Mr. Forback, you'll see that when you create a commission, you are creating an entity that does have the power to do their own spending, their own money, their own hiring, so review that carefully. Because you need to put certain checks and balances into place. And that is something I cannot emphasize enough. When this business with recreation blew up, no one wanted to touch this. This was a hot potato that nobody wanted to go near, and I got it dumped in my lap. At which point I turned around, dumped it in Rich Dimmer's lap, and Rich did an admirable job, and I don't think he has ever been properly thanked for the 400 or 500 volunteer hours that he put in something like 1 month's time to get that recreation program up and running. We did hire a part-time paid coordinator who I believe is not allowed to make more than $3,000 a year, to run everything and to make sure the checks and balances are in place, to handle the billing issues so that he can do registration and collect money, add that money up and then turn it over to the CFO to confirm and then make the deposit. He makes sure that the checks are deposited within 48 hours, which is something that was not happening before. I was in a meeting, and if you're be good enough to give me your email address, I'll send you the minutes from those finance meetings. They are a doozy. I still go back and read them and feel the hair on the back of my neck go up. There was an individual that supposedly volunteered for recreation who was driving around with something like $1,400 worth of checks in his truck and said, I'm not turning them in. I don't like the way they're handling them in the office. Well, they're borough checks. He was bound to turn them in. It just went on and on and on. Now, I don't know what the status of any sort of investigation into this is or was. I had assumed that the auditor and the borough attorney at the time was doing something about it and was looking into it. I mean, certainly it was way too big a scope for me to tackle. But again, I commend Rich and also Patty, who stepped in and helped in the early days of reforming recreation. And I would certainly say that if you are going to look at this, whether it's a commission or a committee, you would do better with a committee if you want to hold the purse strings. And, you know, also I would commend Colleen Lapp, who stepped into the fray and got the whole fund straightened out along with Teresa Casagrande and got the fund in-house, so it's being run here and not out of somebody's home, which it was. They also corralled the checkbook, which used to float all over town, and who knows what it was being used to pay for. And I have bank statements and canceled checks, so I know what was going on. And the fact that that was not looked into further, I mean, really, I think the auditor had a duty to pursue that further. And whether you folks up there want to take any effort to backtrack on that, you know, certainly it would be worth looking into, but my warning would be careful. Be very, very careful on this. Thank you.
Ms. Crippen, your fantastic charges that you've made, maligning people who have sacrificed years and years of their time to bring forward, it's my time for the floor, to bring forward an unsurpassed quality of recreation.
I have the meeting
Ms.
minutes.
Crippen,
I'll
I've
give
got
it
the
to you
floor,
too.
please. I've listened to you politely.
we all know who you're talking about, and we all know what happened when you brought forward the charges, and quite frankly,